We, as humans, have always aimed for the sky. We look up to see the beauty of nature. Clouds, wind, stars. Something bigger than us that we want to reach. This is where we started out, with an inimitable genius who imagined a person capable of challenging his limits and becoming the master of the sky. His machines seemed to come straight from the future. His name was Leonardo. For the past century, the idea of a flying machine has been not just visionary, but reality. Yet, for a sole human to soar into the sky was not enough for us. There are many of us, and in time, there will be even more. Welcome to the Flying Society. A new world where the skies will definitely be a collective shared space. A high-tech ecosystem where different methods of flight will coexist in a seamless experience. The sky has never been so accessible. Space has never been so close. And all this has been made possible by a global community of pioneers and innovators. Join us. Welcome to the Flying Society.
Welcome to the Flying Society, a society where, as you saw in the opening of the video, the sky has never been so open. Change is at hand, and we are already making it happen. It will be up to us now to seize all the great and exciting opportunities that will arise. To observe the advancing future more closely, we are pleased to share thoughts, experiences, and visions with a series of special guests. With our honorable guest, Her Highness Sheikha Moza Al Maktoum, achievements are undoubtedly impressive. The youngest in her class at the Oxford Aviation, becoming the first woman pilot for the royal family in aviation and the first woman pilot in the Dubai Police Air Wing, did not come as easy as one would imagine. A mindset to succeed and a sense of responsibility for the example she embodies that are deeply rooted in her. For Her Highness, as for many other pilots, soaring up in the sky requires continuous technical preparation, consistency, focus, and willingness to sacrifice other aspects of one's life. Having achieved her personal goals, Her Highness is now committed to share her experience to create a legacy of her own, opening doors and enabling other women to enter a career in aviation. Let us welcome on stage First Lieutenant Pilot Her Highness Sheikha Moza Al Maktoum.
The history of aviation features women pioneers from many countries. Who is carrying their legacies, and what role can they play in shaping the future? We are talking about the history of firsts and of women pioneers in the sky with First Lieutenant Pilot Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Marwan Al Maktoum.
Assalamu alaikum. Grazie a Leonardo per invitarmi qui oggi. When anyone thinks about the history of flight and aviation, the first image that comes to mind is that of the Wright brothers, when on the 17th of December of 1903, they made history by taking flight on a gasoline-powered, propeller-driven biplane. It stayed aloft for 12 seconds, and that was enough to carve a space in history that no one could ever erase. Two men, two brothers. But the history of aviation is a history of firsts that is equally paved by a multitude of women, whose names you never heard, whose stories no one ever bothered to etch in a forever book. So at night, we tell stories of the mighty Wright brothers, when we try to put a little child to sleep, when instead we should be telling stories of the mighty women who defied the cultural bias of their time to carve their own rightful space in the history of the world. and it goes far back to 1784, when a French woman named Marie Elizabeth Thibault became the first to fly in a hot air balloon. In 1810, a lady by the name of Sophie Blanchard became Napoleon. Yes, this is Napoleon's chief of air service. She had made a name for herself when her husband convinced her to fly with him in an attempt to lure paying crowds back at the time when hot air balloons were losing out in popularity. And she took to it like a duck to water. Her daredevil stunts earned her popularity and titles. And when the French monarchy was restored, King Louis XVIII named her official aeronaut of the Restoration. Incredible story, isn't it? And I bet you're all hearing this right now for the very first time. So why are we not telling this to young kids at bedtime? There are women in every country, at every decade, and at every point of the aviation industry development. Their stories are worth sharing as much as those of Amelia Earhart, whose bravery sadly cost her her life while attempting a solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean in 1937. In 1934, balloonist Jeanette Picard became the first to reach the stratosphere. In 1932, Winfred Drinkwater became the first woman in the world to hold a commercial pilot's license. We women pilot of the modern day owe so much to her for bashing that door wide open for all of us to follow. The list is long. It includes every country in the world, and it spans across 2.5 centuries. When I'm up at 39,000 feet above the ground, I carry their legacy and their responsibility to bash that door wide open for the next generation of women aviators, pilots, and daredevils, and for all other women who wish to see the actualization of a career in the aviation industry. I relate to these stories of firsts. I am born in a country that encourages everyone to give their best shot for first position. The history of firsts is the history of the UAE. It's my story of my dreams and my desires to be amongst the women who etch their own name in the book of history. I was only 12 when I tasted the freedom of flying, that exhilarating feeling of soaring up in the sky. Not much thought went into it. It was a chance encounter and love at first flight. During a holiday in the UK, I wanted to try something new, and a flying lesson seemed everything my young heart wanted at the time. On a hot summer's day, and that day, the feeling of that day is still with me. I was on a Robinson 22 with the doors removed and the breeze passing through. That incredible sense of possibilities that overtakes the spirit. Freedom. I knew that day that my heart was stolen, and my future would in some way or another include me flying aircraft. I want to say something to that 12-year-old girl. Well done for keeping your word. 13 years later, and you achieved everything you set your mind to. It was a lot of hard work. Sometimes it felt lonely and impossible to achieve, but you did not give up, even when giving up felt like the easiest option. You may be tempted to think, because of my family name and position, I must have had an easy ride, a gentle and pampered experience. But the truth is, I often had it harder than my peers. I was only 17 when I got accepted at Oxford Aviation. I was the youngest by a few years, and my instructors were always extra tough with me because they too wanted to make sure that they were not being influenced by what I represented. So to say it short, I worked twice as hard, but if you ask any woman trying to break through, that's everyone's story. Today, I'm here in front of you sharing an incredible amount of pride because not only I obtained my commercial pilot's license and flew the Boeing 777 for Emirates Airlines, I am now serving my country as First Lieutenant Pilot of the Dubai Police Air Wing, the first woman and the first UAE national to do so. Like I said, the story of firsts is the story of the UAE. This is a very rewarding role where I get to help the community in a job that I love and I'm so passionate about. My duties range from patrolling to search and rescue missions. Every flight is a new experience where I get to learn on the job all the time. I still can't believe that something that started out as a hobby has turned my life around in such a meaningful way. I truly hope that my journey could serve as inspiration and encouragement to all young women still searching for a path and prove to them that there is space for them in serving our country. It's been an incredible journey, and it happened thanks to a lot of hard work, but also the support of a lot of people whom together made it possible. Thanks to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for an inspired leadership that from the start has placed women at the center of the development of the UAE, enabling me to grow up knowing that all possibilities were equally open to me. My deep gratitude goes to His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for supporting me and opening doors and endorsing this choice. I have always looked up to him for inspiration. To Colonel Flight Instructor Ali Al-Mahiri, Director of Dubai Police Air Wing, for carving a space for me and allowing me to make it my own by growing in my role and learning from the best team one could wish for. Today, I'm exceptionally proud to say that I was the first, and I bashed that door wide open. And now we have our two new members of the Dubai Police Air Wing, Lieutenant Pilots Bahra bin Hamad and Dana Al-Mazmi. First there was one, then two, now three, and if this continues growing, like the Fibonacci sequence displayed here at the Italian Pavilion, be ready to witness an aviation revolution, because we are. With great opportunities comes great responsibilities. So to our two new members, I would like to say, don't forget what you represent to other women. Little girls may be looking up to you to see all the possibilities open to them. With this sentiment in mind, in 2019, I decided to step up and do something concrete to help women aspire and achieve a future in the aviation industry. I set up Shehana, the Women in Aviation Association, established with the goal to create a support framework to shift the ratio of women in the aviation industry. I am fully aware that the timing was somewhat unfortunate, given the tremendous hit that the aviation industry has suffered. But it's in times of struggle that we are most resilient. And Shehana is now gearing up to create the impact that we all wished for when it was established. Just to be clear, when I say a career in aviation, I don't just mean pilots. The industry is vibrant and full of all kinds of expertise. We would just like to see more women contributing to it, as lawyers, engineers, doctors, creatives. With all the innovations we are witnessing, I can't think of a more exciting space to be working in. It's time we change the narrative. We tell the stories of the women who paved the way, the first, and expand the view so that the Wright brothers may be just one of the stories we tell at bedtime or teach in schools or use as marketing posters for leadership programs, but not the only one. May the next generation grow up knowing the names of those women, their stories, and dreaming of equal opportunities and achievements and being inspired by their legacy. Thank you.